Welcome to the Designated Drinker Show, the podcast that's raising the bar on craft cocktails. I am your host, Louise Sullis, and with me, as always, is my very, very, very talented friend who was a beast in all the right ways, the mixtress DC Gina.
Hey, Louise, how are you today?
I'm good. You feeling beastly today?
I mean, I'm feeling vaccinated today a little bit, so I'm feeling good. First one down, one to go.
That's good.
Yeah.
There you go. Gotta go. Make sure you count those days.
Yeah, I'm going to choose a superpower after that.
There you go. One more to add to the list.
Yeah, I'd like to see through walls.
Oh, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't think I want to do that one. I think I'd see way too much shit that I don't want to see.
I think I would like that, but keep going, keep going.
Okay, so speaking of beasts, I think we as humans can learn a few things from the animal kingdom, don't you? Just a few things. Like humans, some animals are more kind and willing to lend a helping hand, a paw, a hoof, or even in some cases, a fin to a man in need. And here's one amazing example that involves a marathon swimmer, a pod of dolphins, and one great white shark. Ready?
I'm listening, yeah.
All right. So Adam Walker, a marathon swimmer, was midway in his swim across New Zealand's Cook Strait when he realized there was a giant 7-foot great white shark quickly approaching. He was just closing in on him. Now, out of nowhere came a pod of 10 dolphins to his rescue. They swarmed around Adam and they protected him from the shark for more than 90 minutes. They actually stayed with him until the shark finally gave up and apparently went to go find lunch somewhere else. Because, sharks are afraid of dolphins when they're, Once the dolphins realized that Adam was out of harm's way, they swam away just as quickly as they appeared.
It's amazing. That's amazing.
It's true. It's a true story. And they apparently, what's the other amazing thing is that Adam stayed in the water because there was a boat, apparently. His team was there, but he never left the water. So it basically took him over 8 hours to swim this. Anyway, talking about amazing stories and acts of caring brings me to today's designated drinker.
Aww.
See, he is DC Central Kitchen's Chief Executive Officer, Mike Curtin. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Well, thank you, Louise. It's great to be here. I have to say, I've been introduced a lot of different times in a lot of different ways, but never like that. And that's crazy. I got to say, that guy in the water's he's got a lot going for him that I certainly don't. But I appreciate the reference.
A lot of cojones.
Yeah.
I think you're kind of like the dolphin in that story, one of the many.
I could see that. Actually, it's interesting. We do, and maybe it's like, I guess Adam was a swimmer.
Yes.
At the kitchen, we try to do things that people say, or we do things. We seek out things to do that people say we can't do, or we shouldn't do, or that are too hard. Right. And there's always an easier path. And our sort of vision of that is like, well, then someone else will do that. Our role is to swim that Cook Strait, is to do those things. If for no other reason, to prove it can be done and to show others they should follow.
That's awesome. So let's jump right in. Tell our listeners, please, what is DC Central Kitchen?
So we are a food-based nonprofit, or social enterprise nonprofit. Probably the easiest way to look at us is just sort of dive into our mission statement, which is using food as a tool. And here's a quiz for your audience. When I talk to people, groups, I say, okay, here's our mission statement. Using food as a tool to strengthen bodies, empower minds, and build communities. And then I say, okay, what's the most important word in that mission statement? It's tool. And the hint, of course, was that I kept emphasizing that. But inevitably, people will say food. And I'll say, no, exactly wrong. So the food is the means, it's not the end. And we sort of live this way because the kitchen is based on two principles that have fed up into this mission statement. So the first is that food will never end hunger, right? We're not going to feed our way out of hunger. This is something we've tried in this country for decades. Give away enough free food, people will stop being hungry. Bullshit. It'll never happen, right? It just hasn't. It's not going to. What we have to do is get people to a place of self-sufficiency so we don't have to give away free food. That's the whole, we're in business in essence to put ourselves out of that part of our business. The other piece that's really important to understand when you're thinking, talk about DC Central Kitchen is that it came out of a disappointing, frustrating, confusing volunteer experience that our founder, Robert Egger, had here in Washington, D.C., handing out sandwiches and coffee to men and women living on the streets of D.C. And he realized that while the individuals that were doing this were well-intentioned and had love in their hearts, it was really representative of this larger idea of charity, which again, unintentionally had become more about the redemption of the giver and not the liberation of the receiver. So at the kitchen, we focus on using food as a tool to strengthen bodies, empower minds, and create communities. And all of those things are liberating. Like everything that we do has to be about liberation, opportunity, moving forward, getting to that better place. So ultimately, that's why instead of focusing just on food, we've really focused on training, culinary job training, working with individuals who have faced immense barriers to employment, like histories of incarceration, addiction, trafficking, abuse, homelessness, or other traumas, to get them jobs in the hospitality industry so they can have self-sufficiency, moving on to that better place. In a nutshell, that's the kitchen.
I think it's amazing. When we spoke earlier, a couple of days ago, you were telling me that it was it's using the power of food, and that it's that in what you just described, combining nourishing the body, which obviously people who are hungry need. This is obviously for life, death situations, of course. But to your point, how do you help them move on beyond where they are? So that I think it's amazing when you said you can't feed away hunger. For me, that was just like eye-opening, because without giving somebody the tools in which to be able to move forward and move on and be able to be self-sustaining, it's a Band-Aid, I guess. And when
Sure.
you describe it to me, it's amazing. It
Absolutely.
really was eye-opening. So thank you.
It goes back to the old proverb that's been co-opted by just about everyone. It depends what refrigerator door magnet or bumper sticker you read. It could be a Chinese proverb. It's an African proverb. It's a Middle Eastern proverb. But give someone a fish, feed them for a day, teach them to fish, feed them for a lifetime. But we think in terms of what I mentioned, that we're a social enterprise. So we actually run businesses. We earn over half of our income through catering, food contracts, our locally sourced scratch cooked school food business, our wholesale business. So we can feed people, sure, we can train people, but then, as an old Jesuit priest said to me when I was at high school at Gonzaga, he said, "That's great, but what if all the fishermen are unemployed?" So okay. So we have to basically we have to figure out a new way to fish, to go back to your introduction and in our time in New Zealand there. So we have to create opportunities for these individuals to become employed and to challenge the systems that have kept them unemployed to date. So that's really where our focus is going forward.
Mike, can you tell Louise about a couple of so in DC, it's amazing the reach that DC Central Kitchen has. And over the last, I would say, decade, it really changed with new facilities and everything. Can you kind of talk a little bit about all of us, the four main campuses or the four facilities you have that DC Central Kitchen is involved in? Because I think a lot of people, especially the local listeners in DC, only assume that DC Central Kitchen basically either feeds homeless, or some people may know that you do school lunches, but they don't actually know all of it. And there's so much. So I feel like to glaze over it,
Sure. Well, thank you, Gina. I appreciate that. So, yeah. So when I started at the kitchen 16 plus years ago now, everyone was in the basement of this homeless shelter where I am now. It's one of the largest in the country at 2nd and D. And everything we did here. But actually, in reaction to certain things a response to certain things that happened to us, challenges that we faced, including the recession in 2008, we really felt that we had to expand our mission, but expand it in a way that was not only scalable, but sustainable. So that is to say, wasn't relying on philanthropy. And so we basically had to create more business by doing business. And that's really when we stepped into the school food arena. We started doing locally sourced scratch cooked school food. Again, this was 2008. Now everyone does it. A lot of the stuff that we've been doing for a long time is very cool now. There are apps for that. There's some boxes on TV now that you can buy for imperfect foods and shit. We've been doing that for 32 years. I mean, our bottle is based on imperfect foods. And when we started buying locally directly from farmers from southern Pennsylvania, the Shenandoah Valley, we started by buying aesthetically or geometrically challenged product to make sure our economic impact could expand outside the DC area. And then as we brought this product in, we were able to put that into the school food business. So we started doing locally sourced scratch cooked school meals at one school in 2008, expanded to DC public schools in 2010, and now we're in 13 schools throughout the city. But that's about a $6 million annual revenue piece of business. But more importantly, it's created jobs for about 65 individuals, most of whom have graduated from our culinary job training program. So we have that. And to support that, we've opened a second production facility in Northeast that we refer lovingly to as the Nutrition Lab. In May of 2019, we opened up a cafe over in Southeast DC.
I was there this week.
Oh, is that where you got your shot?
For the first time. What? No, I was over there delivering lunch, actually.
Oh, right. That's right. That's right. Thank you. That was awesome. I want to make sure we thank you for that. But so that was our first cafe, and we started that cafe there not to get into the cafe business, but to be part of that larger nonprofit community and support system that exists at the ARC, which is the Town Hall Education, Arts, and Recreation Center, so that we could run a training program specifically for what we refer to as opportunity youth. Folks ages 18 to 24 who are not in school, they're not working, they're struggling, they're searching, they're lost, they don't know what's next and where to go, and so we've created a space where they can have a place to be and a place to learn and a place to grow. And what's pathetically and criminally sad about our city is one in three individuals 18 to 24 east of the Anacostia River living in Ward 7 and 8 fall into that group of individuals. That's the next generation that is woefully behind and not where they want to be. And this is the capital of the United States of America. That is a huge, huge problem. So so that's where we are. And then the big news going forward is we'll be opening another cafe in the newly renovated Martin Luther King Library, named Mary Ann's in honor of our good friend Marianne Ali, who was here for 20 years, changing lives and doing amazing things, and passed a few years ago after a battle with cancer. And then we'll be opening in early 2022 a brand new 36,000 square foot space down at Buzzard Point in Ward 6, where we'll bring many of these things back together in a really beautiful, powerful, innovative.
Will you leave you won't leave where you are now
will.
Currently, will you?
And quite frankly, Dina, and this place should have been left a long time ago. This building is, we've been here at the largesse and the generosity of the city for years. We don't pay rent, but as I often say, we get exactly what we pay for. This is a challenging building. We've outgrown it many, many times over, and eventually this building will become something else. And we wanted it to be in front of that. We didn't want to be forced to move. We wanted to move. So we've been looking for quite some time. We found a place that suits so many of our needs and really moves us out of the basement, the shadows where we've been, out into the forefront of a growing community to be a new model of conscious and equitable and inclusive urban development in this new space that will really be an anchor for the community and not a force pushing people out.
Yeah, I think that's a whole nother way how you inspire new thinking. Being out to your point, I mean, literally not in a basement, being out in the community, showing that a business itself can help others, that it isn't exclusive. A charity that it's not just a give, that there is a real business. I just recently learned that entrepreneurial space, I was for a minute, it made me a little like, ooh, does that feel right? But then if you think about it, often, and the argument for not doing these things is because it's people taking and they're not giving, and the old ugly argument. But here you're proving that no, if you just give a little, there's so much to be earned, and it's bigger than money, but it is there as well. So, I mean, it's that capitalism meeting the charitable space that really shuts down just about any argument
the whole idea of
against
social
it.
Enterprise, right? We have both. We are driven by improving social good, by improving the lives, making of many, making our system more equitable. But it has to be an enterprise. It has to be sustainable to have value. So we have to be able to show how our work actually has a positive impact. So we've created a whole a social return on investment formula using third party numbers and valuations to show that on an annual basis, our work has about an $82 million positive impact in the city. And that's because of keeping people, reducing the recidivism rate, keeping people from going back to prison. It's from getting healthy food in areas where they didn't have healthy food. It's reducing hunger. It's the above living wages that we pay. It's the keeping, because of the health benefits that we provide, keeping people out of clinics. So I mean, it's a big formula, but it's really important for people to understand, as I said earlier, that while charity had become more about the redemption of the giver and not about the liberation of the receiver, folks in this charitable sector had also let ourselves be marginalized and said, if someone basically saying, give us your pennies and we'll solve your dollar problem. That's outrageous. Who would say that? Gina, like, come into my bar, give me a couple, give me $1, I'll give you a $20 sandwich. That's sort of the model that philanthropy has let itself do. That's where we've been. We're saying, no, this is not right.
Become. Yeah.
That was it.
No,
And
that's what
just
it's
the
become. Yeah.
value of
Yeah.
the being in a business and modeling the kind of employer we would like others to be has a significant value as well. So we're really trying to challenge a lot of the systemic thinking by coming up with these sort of innovative solutions to what we see as systemic problems.
The business, it's in itself, I find very amazing, and what I really want to drive home when on like is what you're doing is the fact that you were able to come up with an idea to turn your charity into a business that is actually formulating bigger business and has spun off other people that have worked for the kitchen to do something globally, right? And teach all of these people how to, you know, shout it from the rooftops that this is what's happening. But I think that your new layer of opening the cafes and doing that, and especially in a fast casual, quick casual world, is so smart because it doesn't stop in just DC, right? Like you could technically go across the river. You could have a brand that's founded by DC Central Kitchen that could be anywhere. And you're teaching people to have jobs and have more of an impact in being owners and management and where they're going to make the next level of income and how to take people out of a situation of poverty or close to it or any of those things, and teaching them, giving them the resources or the empowerment. It starts mentally. I think there's a lot of stigma about where you live, and I always and I try very, very hard to, whenever I'm helping or doing anything, it's you have to start with their mind. You have to give them the mindset of you are just as valuable as anybody else, and that value and the evaluation of their head space, where they're at and what they can achieve. Of course, you have an entry level position in a restaurant. Congratulations. You're not going to be there forever. And I tell everybody my story all the time. I'm like, I didn't start at the top. I couldn't wash another dish. If anybody ever says to me, Gina, you wash dishes so well, it's because I wash dishes forever. Like I think that that's what is beautiful about the model. And I think, as much as I will help, as long as everyone will let me, but I think that teaching and passing all your knowledge and having people pass on the knowledge, and Chef T, who's amazing, and all these people, is how you get people out of that situation. And the cafes are brilliant.
Thank you, Gene. There's a hell of a lot to unpack in there, Gene. So I think that we've got a couple thoughts that you really picked up on some very, very important aspects of what we do. What is really cool is that people have picked up on this model, and we're open source. People pre-COVID, we had visitors coming from around the world and across the country on a weekly basis. But we're not so bold as to think our idea will work exactly. We can't be Philadelphia Central Kitchen or Chicago Central Kitchen or Austin Central Kitchen or Oakland Central Kitchen, but people there can take what we've done and make it their own. And that's what we want to do. And we want to keep on building on this idea and scaling, not necessarily us, but scaling the idea so that more people can take it. And that becomes this, that kind of growth, the scaling of the idea, and what the idea means to other people. That's what we really want to see. That's the thing that keeps us moving. So as we move into the place where we're doing more cafes, where we're an anchor tenant, just think about this for a second, right? We are a 36,000 square foot anchor tenant in a 480 unit apartment unit luxury mixed use building in one of the last up and coming neighborhoods of DC. Right. And the area between our building and the DC United Stadium is yet to be developed. So this whole area is going to funnel down from the wharf in the yard and build up with DC Central Kitchen as an anchor, not Best Buy, not the Cheesecake Factory, not some other, not CVS, anything wrong with any of those. But we're not a national credit tenant. We're not a traditional first floor tenant in a mixed use building. This is revolutionary. Man, I mean, this is crazy cool, I think. And so becoming part of that community and showing what's possible, that's really what we want to do. That's the magic, I think, of what's happening, and getting out of the shelter, and becoming more part of the economic dialogue in our community is what we're really after.
That's awesome. I really like how you put that, being part of the economic dialogue, because again, it's a business. You're contributing on so many levels and bringing it out of the shadows and literally out of the basement. All the things you're saying, it's just genius to me. And I think it's really interesting in how you're saying it can scale in other cities, because what if all these other Mikes in the world are out there thinking about how to approach it? You then have so many minds working on it from so many different angles. It may not be to your point, it may be different in Austin and LA and all the other cities, but they are coming up with solutions that it'll become a synergy that can spill out even past just sharing these ideas.
When I was in the restaurant business, you're always looking for ideas, right, Gina? Like, what can you take from someone else and make it better? Right. So I'll be honest, it was probably 2004, yes. 2005. I was in Vermont with some friends, and I went to visit the Vermont Food Bank, which is one of the really cool food banks that do a lot of social enterprise work as opposed to just providing food. And the guy there, Ed Fox, had worked out this program where he was getting second tomatoes from farmers and turning into tomato sauce and selling it to the local food system. So I was like, that's genius. So I ripped that idea off completely and took it and down here and started like, hey, can we make tomato sauce? That wasn't working out, but hey, we can still do the buying and purchasing, and we can turn it into other product, and that turned into our whole school food program. So again, sharing these ideas, collaborating these ideas, where the value isn't in me keeping my intellectual property to myself. The value is in giving it away. The value is in sharing it. So that's another advantage that we have. We can really revel in the sharing, because if other people do better, then we do better. Like, show me where I'm wrong. That's what I want.
Mike, you just showed me your copywriter side. I don't know if you know this, Gina. Mike was a copywriter. So he and I, in another world, another planet, could make a great creative team. But to your point, Mike, I mean, in all things creative, if you hold on to the idea and you don't let it breathe, then you don't know what it could become. You might have so in brainstorming, I always say, oh, if you've got a stinky idea, share it, because you don't know that. I like to call that manure. It can fertilize a really good idea that somebody else may have never thought of if you didn't throw that stinker out there. So I always believe in sharing those creative ideas, no matter where you are in life.
There's a children's book called What to Do with an Idea. And it's long story short, it teaches kids like it's actually it's one of those books like Dr. Seuss's The Places We'll Go, and it's called What to Do with an Idea. And basically, what it does is it helps teach people that every idea has some sort of value. But I think what you said when you said, "Oh, can't keep it to yourself." That is something you're taught in definitely in higher learning, always, right? Where they say, if you keep anything to yourself,
Yeah.
or you don't teach what you know, you'll never know what you don't know. And I always wanted people always say, "Oh, tell me everything you know." I'm like, tell me everything you don't like. Let me tell you everything I don't know because I need help with all those things. And then like it will all it does is make it better. But I have a question for you. How is it pre-COVID? We have a tremendous shortage of workers for every restaurant, every aspect of restaurants, from stadiums to I don't even know, carts in malls, right? You don't have enough people to put there, and yet you have a training program where all of these people need jobs. And you know, I wonder, now we'll have post COVID and everything, and all these kitchens, you were saying in different states and stuff, are they training people to work in these positions? Because I know that we just did that event with you last year, right before COVID in February, and I was going to hire, but then I had to let go of my entire team. And I'm like, what do you do now? What is,
So
how
that's
do
a
you
really
place
interesting
people
question, Gina.
now?
And I have to, to be really honest, I've spent a fair amount of time talking to people about this. And as I said earlier, we've spent about 32 years trying to tell people DC Central Kitchen is not about food, right? We're about empowerment. We're about training. Well, COVID came along and we had to put our training program on hold. We tried to do one program. We couldn't bring people back here just because of the space and the way we have to do food now. It's just a much different machine or much different operation. So we did a program at Nat Park, which was okay. And the Nats were great. They're tremendous host. It was phenomenal. But it added a whole level of complexity and difficulty. At the very end of the class, one of the students tested positive. So the whole thing had to go on high. And we just said, we just can't, you can't keep whiplashing people back and forth. And to your point, Gina, setting people up, say, hey, come and do this program. And during pre-COVID times, we had a 92% employment rate, right? So chances were really good. If you worked it and you did well, you were going to get a job. We can't say that now. So right now we are really focusing on the needs of the community and meeting people where they are and getting them food in ways that we never have. These individually packaged meals, mobile meal sites, food truck servings, produce bags. We're doing 6,000 produce bags a week. We're moving out, I think, over 2 million pounds of produce, over 3.2 million meals that we put out into the community. One of the things that we've done in terms of food is I mentioned one of our businesses. We have a wholesale business where we sell cut fruits and vegetables, value added product to corner stores in the city's food deserts or food apartheid areas. We discounted that product by 50% and made it so the retailers could reduce their prices, but still maintain their margin. So the community still had access to food, even if their incomes were impacted by the pandemic. And we're selling about 6,000 units of this food a week through these corner stores. One of the things I'm really proud of, even though we can't be doing the training because we're doing these individual meals and we've added this bag production that we're now actually doing at the convention center. We've been able to hire some of our graduates that have been laid off or displaced at other locations. So when COVID started, we had 168 employees. Today we have 169. And what's cool about that, they're all making more money. We've been able to twice give them extra discretionary contributions to their 401ks or start 401ks for those that didn't have them. So everyone that's wanted and been able to work has continued to work. We've been able to bring more back. And we've been thoughtful about how we're doing this work. So we've spent over $1.6 million with local farms to purchase this produce that we're putting in these bags. And we've also sub-granted about $500,000 of the incredible philanthropy that we've seen to smaller nonprofits mostly east of the Anacostia River, mostly run by people of color that just don't have the platform that DC Central Kitchen has had, the 30 plus year experience and name building and recognition that's garnered. But these are organizations that are really in touch with the immediate needs of the community. And post COVID, when we can step back into the training business, we're going to need other folks to pick up and continue this work. So we're not just keeping them going for today. We're trying to make them sustainable into the future, because when we all get vaccines, there's still going to be people that are suffering for a long time because of the effects of this pandemic. So we can't afford to forget or not be ready to continue to do more into the future.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to sleep much. I just sat in on a Arlington Economic Development Conference, a virtual conference, and the numbers that were coming out from the state were staggering, and what the employment looks like and how long it's going to take us to recover. And they're, of course, leveraging learnings through the Great Depression and what that looks like, and using that as pivot points, let's call that, I guess. But it's very, you won't lack for things to do, I don't think, Mike. So the rest of us need to make sure we chip in. To that point, I know in the past, because I've done it, Gene, I went down and I broke down some chickens. I was really good at it, apparently. So because I didn't get to do the socializing, they just kept giving me more and more chickens. I was telling Mike about it. I was like, I never got to do the other half because I was apparently really good at it. And they just kept giving me more and more. I was there to work, damn it. What can people do to help?
Others, usually, as you point out, Louise, when I say that, when people ask that, I say the first, come down and volunteer with us. We want you to get to know us, get to know the men and women that work with us, that are DC Central Kitchen, but we can't do that now. So as much as I hate to say it, go online, dccentralkitchen.org, hit that donate button. Understand that support will get funneled immediately into the community. It will find the place it needs to be. That we are, again, hard at work doing this. We're doing about 12,000 meals a day. That adds up, as Gina well knows. There's a lot to be done, and we are again mindful that much of the support that we get is intended for the larger community, and that we're going to be thoughtful about doing that. So, and then when we get to the new space post COVID, come down and break down some chickens with us and cut some peppers, and if you're really lucky, you'll get the onions. That's for the special people.
Well, good thing I'm good with the chickens. Yeah. So, Gina, do you think it's time? Mike can't join us, but he's going to take it home with him. He's going to have homework tonight.
Yeah. So, let's make a cocktail for sure. Well, I had to grab some ice. So hold please for 1 second, because I was too busy just watching.
Okay.
Well, when Gina gets ice, let me just say, if I could, real quick, that it's so important for everyone to understand. And I know people that are on this, that are listening, understand that restaurants are more than a place to get an amazing cocktail or delicious food. It's a place that, like the kitchen, builds community. It creates community. It creates jobs. It creates family. It creates opportunity. They truly are the cornerstones of our community. I'm a recovering restaurateur myself and have long been involved in the community. And I know that when Robert Egger 32 years ago dreamed up this idea, most people thought it was batshit crazy, but not the restaurant and hotel community and hospitality community. And if it were not for that amazing, amazing community, DC Central Kitchen would not be where we are today, and we would not be looking at the future that we're looking at tomorrow. So it's really important for everyone to understand that. And Gina has been at the forefront of that, and an incredible friend and supporter, and just generous beyond belief for years and years and years. So we cannot possibly give enough love to all of my brothers and sisters out there in the restaurant world.
I feel the same about DC Central Kitchen. Of course, you, Mike, and I've known so many people for so long, and I always say, and anybody that knows me or listens to this show now for sure knows that it doesn't take much to change people's lives, right? It doesn't take, you don't have to give $1 million, give what you can, and you'll see it work in your community. And when you can't give money in another time, when COVID ends or when vaccine has happened, give time, because there was a long time where I couldn't give financial help, and I would help raise money or do everything I could do. And now I could do both. And I feel like that is, where everybody wants to be. It's just a better future, right? So one day we're going to be old.
Absolutely.
I want somebody well educated, happy, taking care of me later in life. So I'm going with it. All right. So I've known Mike for a long, long time, and I know that he likes, a little bit of you like cocktails. Cocktails are delicious, right? They take the edge off.
I've been known to enjoy a cocktail, Gina. Yes.
Yes. And we live in DC, and something for me that no matter whatever I do, I always think of cherry blossoms with DC, and I realize that it is not quite cherry blossom season just yet. It's coming. But when you think of DC in general, you just think of those beautiful monuments.
Yep.
And so anyway, there is this product that I love, and it is a creme de cherry, pretty much is what it is. It's creme de gratte, and it is a delicious product. It is super yummy, and it's from France, and it just kind of like brings the season for me, like kind of like that seasonal. Like spring is coming. It's just beautiful to drink. It's a nice cordial. You can pour it over shaved ice if you want, or you can make a cocktail with it. And that's what we're going to do. So we are going to pour, what is Louise? Is it 1 ounce? I think it's 1 ounce, right?
Oh, you're asking me? Oh my goodness. I got it for you, sister. You have
I know, I don't have my notes.
1 ounce.
Here's my notes in front of me, right? Look, it says going to park. My children wrote this to me. All right. It's 1 ounce, right?
So 1 ounce of creme de cherry.
Yeah, I got it. And 1.5 ounces
of gin.
Yeah. Yep. And then we're going to do 1.5 ounces of gin. And I'm using a Rieger's gin. I mean, we could use a nice DC gin as well. Rieger's is from the Midwest.
I'm doing Virginia. I have Virginia, a little concoction treat.
What do you have? Concoction treat?
I do.
I can't see it in front of me. And now we're gonna do. So this drink doesn't call for a garnish. You can use like flowers, whatever. So basically, what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut our lemon in half, and we're gonna just use a fresh lemon in this because it's really important to like really open up the other parts of the ingredients. So, and if you need to count it out, it is 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice. And then we are going to use, is it 1 ounce of Simple, Louise?
I'll tell you that in 2 seconds. Your recipe calls for 1/2 ounce of simple syrup.
1/2 ounce. See, I wasn't paying attention. See, like my deli container, I took this from work. Don't tell anybody. All right. So simple syrup. If you're at home and you're making this, you want to do a 1-to-1 ratio. And you want your water nice and hot. Add your sugar, stir it. Don't overcook it. It should be clear. If you have an amber colored simple syrup, it's not quite simple syrup. It is a little bit of caramelized syrup. So just be careful when you use that. All right. We're going to put ice on top. And now we're just going to shake this. And I'm actually going to pour mine into chilled coupe. But you are more than welcome to do either pour it on ice if you'd like. If you're feeling that you want to turn this recipe into a punch, you could do 6 times the amount of each ingredient and then fill a bowl with 1 bottle of champagne. And that would be like 16 people. All right, here we go. All right, we're going to pour this into a chilled glass. You have a pretty nice blush color. And in the right season, you should be able to pull some sort of flower or something really pretty to put on top. I am going to use a blossom from my purse called a pocketbook plant. And I'm going to use one of the blossoms and I'm going to put it on top because even though it's just for me, I still want it to be beautiful. And that's it.
That's cute. I love it.
Awesome. That looks delicious.
Cheers. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Ooh, that's lovely. Mike, you're missing out. I can't wait till you have this one.
I know. I'm getting the sense that, yes. I'm looking forward to it.
You have to bartend at home tonight.
I love it. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you for sharing that, Gina. That's awesome.
We'll have to do it at an event, right? We'll replay this at an event soon when people can come.
So where are we going to go to get all these recipes?
We're going to go to designateddrinker.show for this recipe and some tips and tricks and how-tos. And again, if you missed it, it's designateddrinker.show.
Yes. And so we'll make sure that we have links to that go out to DC Kitchen, Mike. We'll make sure they're all there. Make sure that somebody can get quickly to that donate button. And as well as it will also be in our episode notes. So if you're listening, just scroll down and you'll find all of those links will be right there as well. So cheers. All right. So what's big? What's next, Mike?
The big thing are the two projects that I mentioned earlier. The library at MLK, or the cafe at MLK Library, which is it's going to be amazing for us to be part of in a building that is dedicated to Dr. King's vision and message of economic inclusion, and to be a space within that space that lives that models that. That's going to be powerful. And then again, the space at Buzzard Point is going to be an incredible, I think, opportunity for us, for the community, really to think about development in a different way, to think about what inclusion, what equity means. I mean, we are at a place in time right now that, although painful, incredibly painful with the pandemic, with the recession, and with the racial reckoning and upheaval and turmoil that we are facing. But I do hope that if there is a silver lining to come out of these very dark clouds, is that we are more open to the idea that we do have to change the way we do things so that everyone has a fairer shot, and that it's not a binary exercise. You don't lose because someone else wins. I mean, that, like, if we could just get one thing out of our American psyche, that would be it. If we all win when someone wins, and that may be hard to understand, but that's what we believe at the kitchen, and what I hope we're going to live and show and share when we're down at River Point.
Last time I checked, we are only as strong as our weakest link. So
absolutely.
All right, Gina, I think this one's you now.
Okay. All right, Mike. So, in this day and age, everybody has some whimsical, magical animal that they identify themselves with, or they identify themselves with some majestic, real day animals, such as the bald eagle, because it's a symbol of America and freedom. And you could do anything if you're the bald eagle. If you could be one ingredient, whether it's for cooking or for cocktails, what would it be and why?
Wow. So just for everyone listening, this was not a question that I was coached on or given any kind of hint that it would be happening. So this answer is coming completely off the top of my head, but I'm going to say salt. And I'm going to say salt because salt gets to be in a lot of different places. It gets to mix with a lot of different things. And I think one of the theories behind salt is it brings out the best in whatever it's around. So if I can do that, then I'm going to be really, really happy. So salt.
That is an excellent answer. And what a way to end the show. So cheers to that for sure, Louise. Cheers.
Cheers. Absolutely. Cheers, Mike.
Cheers, Mike. To when we can be together again.
I can't wait.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for all that you do. And if there's anything, I know Gina is always there to help you, but if there's anything we at the show can do, all you have to do is ask.
Thank you so much.
Again, thank you for all that you do.
Be good. Be safe, everybody. Be safe. We're almost there.
The Designated Drinker Show is produced by Missing Link, a podcast media company that is dedicated to connecting people to intelligent, engaging, and informative content. Also in the Missing Link lineup of podcasts is Roger That, a podcast dedicated to guiding you through the haze of dementia, led by skilled caregivers Bobby and Mike Carducci. Now, if you're looking for a whole new way to enjoy the theater, check out Between Acts, an immersive audio theater podcast experience. Each episode takes you on a spellbinding journey through the works of newfound playwrights, from dramas to comedies and everything in between. Find Missing Link's League of Podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe, download, and review the shows. Your review helps our shows reach new audiences. To find out more about Missing Link, visit missinglink.company. That's missinglink.company.